Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto silent swordsman. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto, Sakura, and Jiraiya had headed out immediately after the mission to the Sand Village. That mission had been a success. They had saved the case cage, Gaara, from the Akatsuki. During their mission, Sakura had battled Akatsuki member Sasori. He had given her some very vague information about Orochimaru's whereabouts. Since you defeated me, I owe you information. Find a village shadowed by mountains where the water runs into the sky. Orochimaru, being the snake that he is hiding in the depths of those mountains. Find my spy amongst the villagers, who also works for Orochimaru, and you will know that you are in the correct village. It wasn't much information to go on, but Naruto and Sakura had wanted to set out right away. The fifth Hokage, Tsunade, would not let them go until they had a team leader. Their usual team leader, Kakashi, was in no condition to travel. He had overused his new eye technique, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and had drained his body and chakra. So, since everyone else had been on other missions, Jiraiya had been assigned. Plus, when it comes to finding out hidden information, there was no one better than Jiraiya. Time was running out to get to Sasuke before Orochimaru transferred himself into Sasuke's body. Finding villages shadowed by mountains wasn't difficult. In fact, there were too many of them. The harder part was trying to figure out the water running into the sky reference. Where the hell does water run into the sky? Naruto had yelled out of frustration at one point. Now, they were checking in at the local inn at the fourth village in 2 weeks. You better not come back drunk this time, Sakura was warning Jiraiya. Now, why would you say such things? Jiraiya just grinned. Naruto shook his head and checked in. 2 rooms, please. What name? Hun? What name for the rooms? Oh, Uzumaki. What? Uzumaki. Naruto looked at the innkeeper. He is pretty old, maybe he is hard of hearing. However, there was something familiar about his face. Is there a problem, Naruto? Sakura asked. No, no problem, miss. I just haven't heard that name in a while. Naruto, have you been here before? No. My legend must be growing, he said with a big grin. Sakura hit him. You're such an idiot. Everything set? Jiraiya came over. Yeah, just don't be out all night. You're terrible to travel with when you're like that. Jiraiya waved them off and left. Naruto and Sakura went to their rooms. All the while, the innkeeper was watching closely. Naruto and Sakura had been going over all the information they had. So when we finally catch up with Sasuke, Orochimaru will be there with him too. Sakura stated worriedly. Don't worry, I'm sure we're more than a match for him now, especially all 3 of us. But you heard the Hokage, we're not to engage. We're just out here to get information and report back. We won't let him go. Yeah, but we won't let Sasuke go again. But Sakura was still uneasy. She had had a foreboding feeling since the last town. She wanted Sasuke back, but it's getting late. Naruto's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. Yeah. So they said their good nights. Naruto was thinking about Sasuke. He couldn't understand Sasuke anymore. Sasuke's ultimate goal was to kill his brother, Itachi. Did he think Naruto and Sakura wouldn't stand by his side? There was a knock at the door, but Naruto barely heard it. He was lost in his thoughts. Another knock. Oh, it must be Sakura. There's no way Jiraiya would be back yet. Naruto opened the door and was surprised to find the innkeeper. May I come in? Naruto stepped aside and the innkeeper entered. Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen his face somewhere before. So what's your name? Naruto Uzumaki. Is there something wrong? Naruto was puzzled. Why was this innkeeper so interested in his name? You can call me Old Man Azuki. It's been a while since I've heard of someone from the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki clan. I used to know the clan very well. The innkeeper was softly smiling at him. Naruto's head was spinning. Uzumaki clan? What is he talking about? I'm the only one. There is no clan. It's not like the Uchihas or the Hyugas. You're lying. No, I'm not. But there's never been such a clan, I'm just by myself. You're lying. The innkeeper walked over to Naruto, reached up, and placed a hand on his head. Even though Naruto was taller than the innkeeper, it made Naruto feel like a little kid. I'm not lying. There's been so much kept from you. I can tell you, I can show you. I can reveal to you the family you've never known. Naruto sat down on the bed. A family? Me? A family. I'll come back in the morning. You think about what I've said. The innkeeper closed the door behind him. Naruto's head was spinning. In the morning, Sakura had come to Naruto's room and brought breakfast. So he hasn't come back yet? Naruto didn't answer. He was staring at his food. Naruto? Sakura has never known him to be quiet. Did something happen during the night? Hey, Naruto, are you listening to me? What's it like to be from a clan? The question took Sakura by surprise. Is he thinking about Sasuke? That would explain his demeanor this morning. Well, a clan is a big family. You have your immediate family, mother, father, siblings. And then there's the clan, it's everyone else who you're related to. It can be its own community. Everyone pulls together and, she stopped there. I wonder if I'm making him feel bad. Naruto had kept his head down the whole time she was talking. He looked so serious. It always worried her when he got like that. Naruto? There was a knock on the door. Naruto got up and let in the person who had knocked. Sakura had expected it to be Jiraiya, but it was the innkeeper. Have you made your decision? Yes. Naruto had his head down this entire time, but now he looked up, right into the innkeeper's eyes. I'll go with you. Naruto, what are you doing? Where are you going? Sakura, you stay here and wait for Jiraiya. No, I'm coming with you. Sakura, girl, this has nothing to do with you, the innkeeper growled. Naruto? Naruto looked over his shoulder. His eyes were filled with mixed emotions. He smiled, but it didn't go to his eyes. It'll be okay. I'll be back. And with that, he left. Sakura had a very bad feeling. The innkeeper led him to a secluded room. They sat down and the innkeeper looked at him very fondly. I'm sorry, it's been so long since I've met anyone from the Uzumaki clan. They are very dear to me. About that, you still don't believe me. You're the first person who has ever said anything about a clan, not even anyone in my village. Your village? The innkeeper seethed with hate. Naruto, however, smiled and grabbed his forehead protector. Yeah, I'm from the Leaf Village. That's not your village. What? Naruto's face fell. The Uzumaki clan belongs to no village. They had established themselves in several villages, even becoming Kage at different times. But the clan came first. When warring would break out between the villages, the Uzumakis would withdraw so as not to fight each other. They abandoned their village? No, they stuck to the clan. Villages do things in their own interest, most times by the whims of whoever happens to be in charge. Naruto's face was full of confusion, but, listen Naruto, the Uzumakis were highly respected and feared for their talents. But since they would not swear absolute loyalty to one village, hatred started to grow. The clan went into hiding. But for those who feared their power, hiding wasn't enough. The Uzumakis were hunted and rumors were started that they were dangerous. Naruto wasn't sure how to react. He didn't like the fact of not being loyal to your village. But to be hunted because of who you are. His thoughts went to Haku and Gaara. Confusion clouded his eyes. Old man Azuki went over to Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. It was a long time before you were even born. Naruto looked up and the old man smiled. I thought they had all been wiped out. Seeing you is like looking into the face of the past and it gives me hope. To know that there is one left. The old man smiled again, his eyes filled with tears. Now, let me teach you the secrets of your clan. Naruto nodded, let's get started. Sakura waited in Naruto's room all day. It was dark now. What was he thinking? What if it's a trap? What if the enemy is trying to separate us? The door opened, Sakura spun around, and saw Naruto. Where have you been? I've been. Naruto looked exhausted. He walked to his bed and fell into it. Are you alright? Sakura went over to him. He had scrapes and bruises all over him. What happened? Were you attacked? She started her healing techniques. Training. With Jiraiya. No. Then who? There was no response. Naruto? He was fast asleep. Now Sakura was really worried. The next morning Naruto was gone and Jiraiya had yet to return. I'm not going to just wait here again. Sakura was fuming. Do you hear me? She yelled to the empty room. Since no one responded, she left to go explore the town. The town was really nice. Sakura stopped by several shops. She even picked up some sweets for Naruto. As she thought about him, she got really sad. What is he up to? Why won't he tell me what's going on? Why does he train so much? But she knew the answer to that. Naruto always wanted to improve and show that he was going to be the best Hokage ever. Plus, if they were going to get Sasuke back, they would need power. Why am I getting so uneasy? I should be glad that we are getting closer to Sasuke, but But something just wasn't right. Out of the corner of her eye, she thought she saw Jiraiya, so she ran after him. Jiraiya. He looked over his shoulder and then looked away. This made Sakura very mad. She ran faster. He turned a corner and thought she had lost him. When she turned the corner, someone grabbed her and covered her mouth. She was getting ready to fight when her restrainer spoke. "What's up? Why are you here?" Sakura stopped struggling and faced Jiraiya. "What's going on? Where have you been? Why can't you at least stop in to let us know what's going on?" Sakura was fuming. "Listen, I'll explain everything later. But I'll be back tomorrow night and then we'll talk. But, Naruto, tell him to be patient, but I have to go. Wait here a few minutes and then leave." Sakura started to object, but Jiraiya quieted her with a look. "I'll explain later." And then he left. Sakura was mad and confused. She went back to the inn. Sakura went to her room, full of thoughts. Why won't anyone talk to me? Why am I always out of the loop? She heard a noise from the room next door. Naruto. She ran over, but paused before she entered. Again, thinking it might be a trap. "Well, I guess I'll have to take my chances." She knocked on the door. When she got no response, she opened it a little. There was Naruto lying on his bed and the innkeeper standing over him. "Who are you? What's going on?" she demanded. The old man looked at her. "He's a natural, he's caught on so quickly." "What are you talking about?" But he just smiled. There is something so familiar about that smile. The innkeeper walked past her and then out the door. Sakura went over to Naruto. He was even worse than yesterday. "What kind of training are you doing? Why are you so wiped out?" She knelt down and started healing his wounds. "I know that he'll heal quickly on his own, but right now that was all she could do for her friend." The next morning, Sakura awoke to an empty room. "Damn, I thought if I stayed here, I could catch him before he left." She found the sweets she left out eating with a note saying, "Thanks." She smiled. "Well, you're welcome." As she was thinking about it, a strange memory came to her. It was the innkeeper taking Naruto. They turned to see her getting up. Naruto smiled, did an odd hand sign, "Sleep, Sakura." That was the last she could remember. Well, that had to be a dream. Naruto doesn't have that kind of jutsu. So she got up and went to her room. "Well, I guess I'll go get supplies. If Jiraiya keeps his word, he'll be back tonight and then we will leave tomorrow. We can get on the road quicker if we have everything tonight." A wave of uneasiness came over her again. Somehow the thought of setting out gave her a foreboding feeling. This is ridiculous. Either we will move to the next town or head back to the village. She shook her head. She bathed and headed out. This time she didn't bother looking for Jiraiya. She just got what they would need, plus more sweets for Naruto. She seemed to be noticing his habits more. "Well, we are friends and we are on missions together all the time. Of course, I would start to pick up on his habits." She went back to the inn, checked in Naruto's room first. He still wasn't back, just as she thought. So she went to her room and waited. She'd packed her things, twice. She was going out of her mind. So she went back to Naruto's room and packed his things. Not that it was all that hard this time, he never really unpacked. Jiraiya never had much. Then, she just waited. By the time Naruto and the innkeeper returned, it was early evening. The innkeeper was carrying a practically unconscious Naruto. "What happened? Why are you in here, girl?" "Naruto is my friend. I'm worried about what are you doing to him." Sakura shot back with barely contained fury. Surprisingly, the old man smiled. "Maybe he was right about you." This took Sakura by surprise. "What are you talking about?" But the innkeeper just laid Naruto on his bed, turned to walk away. This time Sakura grabbed him before he could leave. "I want some answers. Who are you? How do you know Naruto and what have you been teaching him?" Again the old man smiled. "You'll see." And then he left. That smile, why was it so familiar? And then it hit Sakura. It reminded her of Naruto's smile. That's odd since there was no one who smiled like Naruto. I must be seeing things. She walked over to Naruto. Here we go again. Once again she started healing. It was getting late and Jiraiya still hadn't come back and Naruto was still out. Sakura was looking out the window when she heard a noise behind her. "Unna." "Naruto." "Hey Sakura, what are you doing here?" "Idiot, I've been worried about you." "What have you been doing?" Naruto's stomach let out a big growl. "Maybe after I eat." Same old Naruto. This thought made her smile. "Never change Naruto, please." "Oh, great. More sweets. Thanks Sakura, you're the best." Sakura smiled at him and for the first time in days it felt like everything was back to normal. Several hours later Jiraiya came back. Naruto had been evading Sakura questions. She was ready to kill him, so Jiraiya provided a new target for her to take out her frustration. "Where have you been?" she yelled. "How much money did you lose this time?" Naruto chimed in. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's going on?" Jiraiya looked from Sakura to Naruto. Sakura was boiling mad, but Naruto looked oblivious as always. Lovers quarrel? That was the last straw for Sakura, as if. "Both of you just leave me here and then neither of you will tell me what's going on. I've had it. I better get some answers or I'm going to start hitting things." Sakura had unbelievable strength, which thanks to the 5th Hokage had been honed into something very scary. Alright, Naruto, you're first. What have you been up to?" "Training." "Okay, well Okay, that's it? Okay. He's been coming back every night bruised and bloody and he passes out before I can talk to him and—" "But that's normal, Sakura," stated Jiraiya. "What? I guess you've never been around him when he's training. He keeps at it until the point of exhaustion, recovers quickly and then does it all over again." Sakura was stunned. "Does he really work that hard? So have you improved?" Naruto smiled. "You'll see." Sakura was so reminded of the innkeeper that for a moment she thought that they could be related. She shook her head at this though. That's ridiculous. Now that Sakura had calmed down, Jiraiya felt it safe to continue. "Now, to tell you what I've been up to." The sun was just rising as the trio walked out of the village. Sakura and Jiraiya exchanged nervous glances. Sakura was the first to speak. "Naruto, shouldn't we head back to the village? I mean," the Hokage said. "No." Jiraiya and Sakura looked at each other. This time Jiraiya tried. "Well, we could get some extra help. I'm sure Kakashi would." "No." This time Naruto stopped and turned to look at them. "If we wait, Sasuke and Orochimaru will move again and we will have to start all over again. If you guys want to go back, I won't stop you, but I'm not going to let Sasuke go again." His eyes were almost blazing. Alright. Jiraiya knew that once Naruto got like this nothing in the world would sway him. "But, Naruto." Sakura was worried. This time Naruto smiled, the biggest smile he could muster. "It's time I kept my promise. I'll bring him home for sure this time." Sakura smiled weakly. "I want Sasuke back, but then why do I feel so guilty when Naruto mentions that promise?" As they continued, Sakura thought back to the day when Naruto made that promise to her, the promise of a lifetime. She had begged Naruto to bring Sasuke back, told him that he was the only one who could get through to Sasuke. That her only wish was to have Sasuke back. She looked at Naruto's back. He has grown so much in some ways and none at all in other over the past 3 years. He can do it. I know he can. Naruto can get through to anyone. But she didn't feel convinced. Not that she doubted Naruto, she knew better. But something was nagging at her. What is it? If I could just figure it out. She went over and over all of the information, but it was the village they just left that kept coming to her. Naruto's training. Jiraiya's mysterious contact. It all made her uneasy. She thought back to last night when Jiraiya filled them in on what he had been doing. "I know that I've been gone a while, but my contact. You just didn't want us to know how much money you lost," Naruto said. "No, Naruto, and if you want to know then be quiet. As I was saying, my contact has been very secretive. He needed to be sure that I was the only one he made contact with. That's what was going on the other day, Sakura. I'm sorry I couldn't go into more detail at the time. I still think he doesn't trust me, but I was able to get him to talk. Orochimaru and Sasuke are in the hills after the next village. They won't be there long. He knows because he works for Orochimaru and was in town for supplies." "Are you sure the information can be trusted?" Sakura asked worriedly. "No, but it is the only information we have gotten in days. Plus, the name of the village is the Sky Village. They sit at the foot of the mountain that has a waterfall. It's the closest match to the information Sasori gave to Sakura. We should go back to Konoha and—" "No, we need to go after them." "Naruto?" Sakura tried. "No, if we let him go, we might not be able to catch up again in time." "Naruto?" Jiraiya tried this time. "Hey, Sakura, are you okay?" Naruto snapped her out of her thoughts. Yeah, they all fought all night long, but Naruto wouldn't be swayed. She had hoped Naruto would have been more reasonable this morning. She should have known better. Naruto was even more determined than last night. They walked most of the day in silence. The next village was only a day away and the mountains another half day. They reached the village at nightfall. This time Jiraiya registered the in-room. Once they were in the room, Naruto went right to the window while Sakura and Jiraiya divided the room. I don't know why I couldn't have my own room like before. Sakura complained. Well, because, daughter dear, what good father would let his daughter all by herself? Jiraiya smiled mischievously. What was all of that about anyway, and why did we need to take off our forehead guards? Sakura, I thought you were the smart one. What? Why you? Sakura fumed. Jiraiya sighed. If Orochimaru is really this close, then he would be alerted by anyone coming to this village with the Leaf Village emblem. So we need to disguise ourselves. Fake names, no signs of who we really are. Sakura became quiet. This is getting serious. She looked over to Naruto. He was still looking out the window. She walked over to him and looked out the window also. They had a perfect view of the mountains. Naruto hadn't moved since they had entered the room. Sakura looked at him sideways. Naruto was completely focused on the mountains. She could tell that he was thinking about Sasuke. He's not going to let Sasuke go this time. Naruto? He turned and gave her an encouraging smile. We'll do it this time. We each tried separately, but Sasuke won't be able to do anything against the two of us. Naruto. Sakura smiled, but her uneasiness was growing. Okay, let's go over the plan. Jiraiya called to them. They both went over to Jiraiya and planned for tomorrow. Sakura woke up first. She noticed that Naruto was gone and had left a message on his bed. Training. She sighed heavily and started to get breakfast ready. Jiraiya woke up next. Where's Naruto? Sakura pointed to the note Naruto had left. Oh. Jiraiya shook his head and joined Sakura for breakfast. They ate in silence. Sakura. She turned to Jiraiya, but he was looking past her to the mountain. Keep an eye on Naruto. Something's up with him. He's way too confident about going into Orochimaru's lair. Jiraiya turned to Sakura. I don't know what promise he made you, but he will deliver even if it costs him his life. Sakura stared at Jiraiya. She knew what he was saying was true. She had tried to push that fact back in her mind. She wanted Sasuke back, but she didn't want to lose Naruto in the process. Make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, okay? Okay. Just then, the door flew open and Naruto came in wearing a big smile. Are you guys ready yet? The sound had so startled them that they threw their kunai knives at him. Naruto easily avoided their attacks. Naruto just kept smiling. Oh great. Breakfast. He went over to the food and helped himself. Sakura and Jiraiya just stared at each other. Sakura's bad feeling was overwhelming. The trio reached the base of the mountains at sunset. They waited for a couple of hours to gather information and study the lay of the land. They had seen no one. Jiraiya gave the signal and they converged. Jiraiya spoke very quietly. All right, according to my informant, there should be an entrance here. Naruto and Sakura gave a quick nod. Jiraiya walked up to the mountainside and started looking around. Naruto and Sakura had their backs to him to make sure no one came from behind. Jiraiya found the spot he was looking for and the side of the mountain opened. Okay, everyone in. Stick to the plan, Jiraiya whispered. They all entered and the mountain closed behind them. They followed the dimly lit hallway. Everyone had expected some resistance by now, but there was nothing. They paused. Something's not right. Did we miss them? Have they already moved on? Naruto thought. Damn it. He pounded on the wall. All of a sudden, light came on and there was a loud noise. That was the last thing they remembered. Why do I feel so heavy? Sakura opened her eyes and tried to lift her head. Oh. Sakura turned to see Naruto and Jiraiya. They were all in a sitting positions with their hands tied behind them. So our audience awakes. They all looked up to see Orochimaru wearing a wicked smile. He walked over to Naruto, bent down and looked him right in the eyes. Sasuke came to me on his own, you should not have interfered. Naruto stared right back, but surprisingly didn't say anything. Orochimaru just laughed, and walked away. He walked over to someone bound in a chair. Sasuke. Sakura called out. She couldn't believe it. After all this time there he was. He turned his head to look at them. The smile Sakura had faded away. Sasuke's eyes were so cold. He looked at them like they were strangers. Sasuke. Sakura was devastated. All this time all she could think of was getting him back. But he didn't care that they were there. What has happened to you, Sasuke? Orochimaru laughed. Not the happy reunion you thought. Well, at least you can enjoy the show. What is he talking about? But then Sakura knew. It was time for Orochimaru to transfer to Sasuke's body. Now Sasuke, it's time that you give me the Sharingan. Orochimaru was practically dripping with anticipation. Let's get started. Kabuto? Sakura hadn't even noticed Kabuto, who was sitting behind a desk with odd machines on it. No, we're so close and we can't do anything. I won't lose him like this. I won't. She and Jiraiya were trying to get out of their bonds, but not Naruto. What's he doing? Did he change his mind on Sasuke? But as she watched him, he disappeared in a puff of smoke. A shadow clone. When did he do that? Naruto was getting stronger by leaps and bounds. Sakura felt someone put a hand on her shoulder. Naruto. He'll get us out of this and then we'll get Sasuke. Be still, Sakura. All of a sudden Sakura couldn't move anything. She tried to call out to Naruto, but she couldn't find her voice. What's he doing? Why wouldn't he free us? She saw Naruto go over to Jiraiya. Be still, Jiraiya. Then he started walking towards Sasuke and Orochimaru. Is he insane? He can't take on Orochimaru by himself. Then she remembered this morning, keep an eye on Naruto. Something's up with him. He's way too confident about going into Orochimaru's lair. I don't know what promise he made you, but he will deliver on it even if it costs him his life. Make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, okay? But that's not. Hey, Orochimaru. Sasuke may have come to you on his own, but he has things he needs to do back at the Leaf Village, so I'm here to take him home. Orochimaru had been so concentrated on Sasuke that he hadn't noticed Naruto until he spoke. He turned to face Naruto. What the? How did you get free? He looked over to Sakura and Jiraiya. So, you think you can take me on by yourself? Naruto was starting to make strange hand signs. Let's find out. Out of the corner of her eye, Sakura saw Jiraiya struggling. He wasn't moving very much, but he was trying. When did Naruto learn? But then she knew, the innkeeper. He's catching on so fast. You'll see. So this was the training. But could he really do this on his own? Kabuto, take care of him. Orochimaru yelled. Kabuto started to get up, but Naruto was suddenly behind Kabuto. Be still, Kabuto. And then he was gone. Kabuto was now in the same position as Sakura and Jiraiya. Naruto was now standing between Orochimaru and Sasuke. Naruto landed a punch on Orochimaru and sent him flying. Sakura, Jiraiya, and Kabuto were amazed. Not that they could do much but watch. Naruto turned to Sasuke and smiled. It's time you came home, Sasuke. Sasuke just stared at him. Naruto reached into his jacket and took out his forehead protector and laid it on Sasuke's lap. Give this to Iruka-sensei, and give this to Granny Tsunade. Naruto took off the necklace that he had won from her. Tell them thanks for believing in me. I'm not going back. I have something I need to do. Sasuke said coolly back. Now you've got a mission. It's been a while, do you think you can handle it? I'm not going back. Naruto placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder. Be still, Sasuke. I can't have you interfering in this fight, or running off again. Naruto smiled. From behind, a sword sliced through Naruto's arm and cut Sasuke's cheek. Now look what you made me do. I've sliced my new body. Let's finish this boy. Naruto straightened, took some of his blood and started with the hand signs. He turned to face Orochimaru. Yes, let's. They charged at each other. When Naruto landed, he put his left hand down and swiped his feet around to face Orochimaru again. Naruto had a new wound, but he barely noticed. They charged again. This time Naruto landed to the left of Orochimaru and repeated his hand and foot movement and again faced Orochimaru. This time Orochimaru had a wound. You've gotten stronger, boy, but not strong enough. Remember, I killed the third Hokage. Do you think you stand a chance? Naruto stood, his eyes blazing. You better believe it. And they went at it again. Each time Naruto landed, he pressed his bloody left hand to the ground, rotated on it, making a sweeping motion with his feet. What is he doing? He's wasting time with those movements, Sakura thought. She looked over at Jiraiya out of the corner of her eye. He could move his foot. Sakura was surprised. How did he do that? But then her heart sank. The look in Jiraiya's eyes scared her. He looked frantic. I want to help too, but Naruto seems to know what he's doing. He'll probably release us when he needs us. But this thought didn't convince Sakura. Deep down, she knew something was wrong. Jiraiya was able to start moving his fingers. He was trying to make hand signs, but he didn't have that much movement yet. But he kept working on it. Naruto, please don't do what I think you are. Sakura was mesmerized by the fight in front of her. Naruto isn't even trying to protect himself. He's just keeping Orochimaru on the run. But he isn't majorly injuring Orochimaru either. Sakura looked back over to Jiraiya. He was trying to stand, he can move that much. Well, he is one of the legendary Sannin. But the look on his face still bothered her. Why is he so scared? Just then, Naruto handed in front of Sasuke again. Now don't forget your mission. Don't turn your back on me, boy. Orochimaru yelled as he charged towards Naruto. So much happened all at once. Sakura's bonds were released. Jiraiya started running toward Naruto yelling, "Naruto, no, stop." And Naruto turned to face Orochimaru, ninja art self-imprisonment seal. He finished his hand signs, he let his arms drop down to his sides. A huge light come from him and enveloped Orochimaru. The light was so bright that it stopped everyone in their tracks. When it faded, Naruto was face down on the floor and Orochimaru was nowhere to be seen. Jiraiya was standing still, head down and fists clenched. "Where's Lord Orochimaru?" Kabuto asked. Everyone had forgotten about him. Sakura ran over to Sasuke. "Are you alright? We've been looking for so long. Why did you come here? I don't need your help." Sasuke, however, wasn't looking at her. His gaze hadn't moved from Naruto. Sakura looked over to Naruto. She was very proud of him. He did it. He really did it. Jiraiya was kneeling down beside Naruto. He very gently turned Naruto over, cradled him in his arms and started wiping the blood off of Naruto's face. Sakura had never seen Jiraiya so gentle. "Don't worry. I'll heal him in no time." She started to walk over. "Don't bother. There's nothing to heal," Jiraiya said in a harsh tone that didn't match his gentle actions. "What are you talking about?" Sakura left Sasuke's side and went over to Naruto. He wasn't breathing. She put her hands on him to start healing, but she couldn't feel his chakra flow. "No, this isn't happening." Sasuke turned to leave. Jiraiya caught the movement, flew up and caught Sasuke by the collar. "Where do you think you're going?" "I have something I need to accomplish." "Not until you do what Naruto wanted from you." "I don't care what he wanted. I broke my bonds with him a long time ago. It was his last request of you. And I will make sure you follow though, even if I have to break every bone in your body and carry you." Jiraiya could barely contain his fury. After everything Naruto's given up for this kid and he still doesn't care. Naruto should have given up on him a long time ago. Sakura was still trying to heal Naruto. "Come on, don't do this. I never wanted. Not like this. Why would you?" Tears flowed down her face. All of a sudden Naruto breathed and she could feel his chakra. "Jiraiya." He looked over his shoulder. "Don't get excited. He can probably last 3 days, that's the standard with that jutsu. But let me make it clear, no one has ever recovered from it." "But, not anyone, ever." Jiraiya looked back to Sasuke. "I don't think you are worth it." Naruto had so much in front of him, but now. Jiraiya's voice was choked with emotions. "Now are you coming willingly, or do we go with the second option?" "Do you really think you can take me, old man?" Sasuke said without any emotion. "I'm not a Sannin for nothing. I don't care about that. Enough." Sakura's voice echoed throughout the room. She got up from Naruto and walked over to Sasuke and Jiraiya. "Sasuke, please." She still had tears flowing, but her voice was steady. "You may have cut your bonds with Naruto, but he never cut his with you. You weren't just a comrade, you were like a brother. You should know that Naruto never gives up on anyone, especially someone as important to him as you." Sasuke looked from Sakura to Jiraiya. "I guess I have no choice." "Very well, I will fulfill this mission, but no more than that." His voice held no emotion, but Sasuke's eyes were as sharp as kunai knives. Sakura nodded. She understood what Naruto wanted. He thought if he could get Sasuke back to the village, then maybe, he would decide to stay. Plus, Tsunade is the best healer, she'll prove Jiraiya wrong. Jiraiya slowly let go of Sasuke. He went over to Naruto, looked at him fondly, then picked him up and put him on his back. "Alright, let's go." No one said a word as they walked out, missing the slight movement in the shadowed corner. They had reached the end of the village by the mountains. Outside of the gates, Jiraiya spoke. "Sakura, when did Naruto learn those sealing jutsus?" "In the last town. I told you he had been training." "Was anyone helping him?" "The old innkeeper was with him a lot. There's something oddly familiar about him, but I couldn't place it." "Can you?" Suddenly, Naruto made a strained noise and clenched Jiraiya's shirt. "Is he waking up?" Sakura asked excitedly. "No. I told you no one ever recovers from this. He's in pain." Jiraiya had paused and put Naruto down. He was breathing hard and clenching his fists in pain. Sakura started to go over to him, but Jiraiya stopped her. There is nothing you can do for him. She looked over to Naruto. Blood started to trickle out of his mouth. You don't know that for certain. She pushed past Jiraiya, went to Naruto and started trying to heal him. Sakura? Jiraiya called, but then thought better of it. If I try to stop her, she'll probably hit me, and that is something I want to avoid at all costs. Besides, it won't do any harm to let her try. So Jiraiya shrugged and went over to Sasuke, but said nothing. I'm not running off. Well, let's make sure of that. Jiraiya pulled a sutra from his pocket, grabbed Sasuke's wrist. Hey! The sutra wrapped around Sasuke's wrist, glowed for a moment, and then disappeared. Just to make sure you don't go anywhere. If you get too far from me, this will freeze you in place until I come to release you. So if you were planning on leaving while we were asleep, you can forget it. Sakura had seemed to finish whatever she was trying. How's he? Jiraiya asked. The spasm has stopped. He is breathing easier. For a moment I thought he was going to open his eyes, but she left the sentence hang. Jiraiya got Naruto up on his back again. Come on, we need to find ourselves a certain innkeeper. As they walked back to the previous village, Sakura stared at Naruto's back. What was he thinking? Did he really think I wanted Sasuke back like this? She looked over at Sasuke. He was just looking ahead, his eyes seemed empty. No one was talking. She never felt so lonely in all her life. Without even thinking about it, she went over to Naruto and grabbed his hand. Jiraiya looked back at her. It's too late now to realize how you feel about him. He turned back around and continued walking. How am I going to explain this to Tsunade? She placed a lot of hope in this kid, now what? They walked into the reception area of the inn where they had stayed before. Jiraiya put Naruto down on a couch and rang for the innkeeper. Sasuke stood off in a corner, as if he didn't want to be seen. Sakura stood in between Sasuke and Naruto. When the innkeeper came out, Jiraiya grabbed him by his collar and held him up in the air. Who the hell are you and why did you teach Naruto those jutsus? Sakura almost felt sorry for the old man, then she looked at Naruto, almost. Get your hands off of me. Answer my questions. Who do you think you are teaching him those jutsus? His family. What? This statement caught everyone by surprise. Even Sasuke looked up. You heard me, his family. I'm called Old Man Azuki, but my real name is Kaien Uzumaki. Nobody knew how to react. Sakura had gotten so used to Naruto being by himself that she had stopped thinking about his family. Plus, Naruto never mentioned anything. It was like Naruto was just always there. You're lying? But Jiraiya knew it was true. All he had to do was looking at the innkeeper's eyes to know it was the truth. Why did you teach him that damn jutsu? Because it was his right to know. All of the Uzumaki clan were experts at sealing jutsu. You wouldn't have some of your sealing techniques if it wasn't for the Uzumaki clan. Sakura was stunned. It was so odd hearing someone mention Uzumaki and clan in the same sentence. But Jiraiya was pissed. That's what I hate about clans. They never think of the individual. Do you have any idea of his hopes, his dreams, his desires? Yeah, to become Hokage, humph. Do you know how many Uzumakis have been a cage over the years? I won't let another one go that route. Giving up everything for a village that will turn its back on you and forget you. You have no right to make those decisions. You just met him. Jiraiya was furious, clan members or not, he didn't know Naruto. And so, to keep him from becoming Hokage, you teach him that self-imprisonment jutsu to kill him. Kill him? Why would I want to do that? But no one ever recovers from that jutsu. Now Jiraiya was confused. He relaxed his grip on the innkeeper. That's not true. Now Jiraiya was very confused. Sakura, however, perked up at this new information. I knew it. He would never just leave us like that. Explain yourself. Everyone I've heard who has used that jutsu has died within 3 days. Well, it takes a very strong shinobi to pull that jutsu off successfully. It takes an amazing shinobi to survive it. Once long ago there was on such shinobi. They say that after performing the self-imprisonment seal and the 3-day period he awoke with even more strength. Sakura fell again, once, a long time ago. This sounds like a fairy tale. The Silent Warrior? You are betting his life on that myth. Jiraiya was getting mad again. It's not a myth. It did happen. There just hasn't been anyone strong enough since to pull it off successfully. Now the innkeeper was the one getting mad. Jiraiya started to say something else, but Naruto made a pained noise. Sakura spun around and went to his side. Jiraiya let go of the innkeeper and turned around to look at Naruto. This fit was a little worse than the last one. Naruto's body shook and arched with pain. Blood started flowing from his mouth again, it was more than before. Sakura was using her healing jutsu again. Where is the blood coming from? That shouldn't happen, the innkeeper said. Sakura's heart sank. Of course, he has the nine-tail inside of him. Adding Orochimaru to the mix must be putting a strain on his body. There are things that you don't know about Naruto. He's not going to recover from that jutsu. You're wrong, you'll see, but the confidence was fading from the innkeeper's voice. The idiot probably thought he was strong enough to survive it. Everyone had forgotten about Sasuke standing in the corner. Everyone turned to look at him. So you're the friend he needed to save. The innkeeper walked over to Sasuke. An Uchiha, huh? How did you figure that out? I'm not using my Sharingan. I've been around long enough. You look like an Uchiha. The innkeeper studied Sasuke for a moment. You don't seem grateful to be saved. I didn't need saving. He should have minded his own business. They all should have, Sasuke said with almost an angry tone in his voice. The innkeeper looked him up and down again. So, you weren't worth it. I never asked him to come after me. In fact, I broke my bond with him. I went after my goals my own way. I didn't need him anymore. Sasuke paused. I should have killed him when I had the chance. The innkeeper slapped him. Sakura was in shock. How can he say that, after everything Naruto's gone through? How can that be how he feels? Jiraiya looked like he could kill Sasuke. So then why are you here now? The innkeeper asked in a deadpan voice. Sasuke showed the sutra that Jiraiya had placed on him. The innkeeper looked disgusted. He turned and went over to Naruto. His look softened as he sat down. Don't worry. He'll make it, I know it. Sakura looked at the innkeeper. His eyes never left Naruto. She wasn't sure if he was trying to convince her or himself. Everyone had gathered outside of the inn. Jiraiya was carrying Naruto again. We need to get Naruto to Tsunade as soon as possible. Maybe she can come up with something. If there is any small chance of saving Naruto, Tsunade will find it. But we are weeks away from the village. What are we going to do? Sakura was almost out of hope. Jiraiya smiled. Don't worry, I have ways to travel faster. He did a summoning jutsu and a giant frog appeared. Now, let's get going. Wait, even if we ride on him, it's still going to take more than 2 days to get there. Who said anything about riding on him? Okay big fella, open up. The frog opened his mouth wide. Okay, everyone inside. What? Sakura was shocked. Listen, there are many jutsus that you haven't seen yet. This is a transportation jutsu. It will take us just outside of the village. Sakura was a little nervous, but if this would help Naruto, she followed everyone into the frog's mouth. It was pitch black. Sakura couldn't even see her hands in front of her. She thought she had lost everyone, but before she could call out to anyone a light appeared. She kept walking and suddenly she was outside again. Sakura was blinded and looked around. I can't believe we're so close to the village. They had only half a day walk. But it still only gives Tsunade a day and a half to help Naruto. Jiraiya, why didn't you get us closer? But when she looked at Jiraiya, she knew. He was sweating and breathing hard. He must have used a lot of chakra. They walked for several hours. Jiraiya was keeping an amazing pace. I can't believe how fast he's going after using that much chakra. Sakura looked over at the innkeeper. He didn't look good. She was just about to suggest they take a break when Jiraiya suddenly stopped. Alright, we'll break here for 1 hour. Jiraiya gently set Naruto down against a tree and started surveying the area. Sakura and the innkeeper sat on either side of Naruto. Sasuke stood at a different tree, again hiding in the shadows. Sakura started unpacking food for everyone when she noticed the sweets she had bought for Naruto. Damn it, things weren't supposed to go this way. We were supposed to go back to being a team again. The three of us. She looked over to Sasuke and felt angry. Why can't he be glad we came for him? After everything we went through, after everything Naruto's. She let the thought drop off. She was so angry that she had just crushed the can she had been holding. Naruto, you didn't eat all of your sweets, I'm surprised. Sakura started talking as she was putting the food out. Miss? The innkeeper was confused. He can't hear you. Sakura looked at him with mixed emotions. I know he's Naruto's family, but if he hadn't taught Naruto that jutsu things wouldn't have gone so bad. We don't know that. I'm not going to treat Naruto as if he's already. But she couldn't complete the sentence. The innkeeper just nodded and sat back. Sakura was just about to start talking when she felt a presence, actually several. Her head snapped up. Jiraiya. Yeah, I know. You stay by Naruto. If it's the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki? The innkeeper asked, are they after Naruto? Sakura stood ready. Like Jiraiya said, there is a lot about Naruto you don't know. There was no noise when the 4 people appeared in front of Sakura and Jiraiya. But it was not who they were expecting. There stood Might Guy, Rock Lee, Neji Hyuga, Ten, and Hatake Kakashi. Well Jiraiya, it looks like you've finally brought my team back. We've been trying to track you down, Kakashi said in his usual light tone. Sakura was so relieved to see everyone, especially Kakashi, that she fell to her knees and tears started flowing. Sakura, are you okay? Lee asked. She started to respond when she heard Naruto make a pain sound. She spun around. Naruto was clawing the ground, arching in pain, and blood was coming out of his mouth. This is worse than last time. There is even more blood and he seems to be in more pain than last time. She thought as she went over to him and started her healing jutsu. Kakashi and Guy were standing with Jiraiya. What's going on? Guy asked. Self-imprisonment seal, was all Jiraiya said. What? When did he learn that? How did he learn it? There isn't anyone alive who knows it. Kakashi asked with surprise and concern. There is at least one person who knows it. Jiraiya motioned to the innkeeper. That's Kaien Uzumaki, he taught it to Naruto. Uzumaki. Kakashi and Guy said in unison. Yeah, apparently a survivor of the clan war. While I was gathering information, he was teaching Naruto that damn jutsu. Jiraiya's voice was angry. Neji, Lee and Ten had gathered around Sakura and Naruto. Is he alright Sakura? Lee asked. He's going to be fine. We just need to get him to Tsunade. But her voice was heavy with worry. This is harder than last time. He's getting weaker. Hey Naruto, do you know who's here? Lee, Neji, and Ten. Guy-sensei and Kakashi-sensei are here too. We get to go back to the village together. Her voice was starting to waver. No, not again, I need to be strong if I'm going to get him through this. Don't you give up on me, Naruto, she whispered to him. What happened Sakura? This time it was Neji. The idiot thought he was stronger than he really is, as always. They all, except Sakura, turned to see Sasuke standing in the shadows. So, they finally got you back. Welcome home, Lee said. Sasuke glared at them, who said I wanted to come back. This took everyone by surprise. That moron, Sasuke started. Sasuke, you better be very careful what you say about Naruto. Sakura said. She hadn't turned from Naruto. Her voice was strong and steady. Do you think I'm worried about that old man? Sannin or not, I can take him. Jiraiya's not who you have to worry about. Sakura now she faced him, the look in her eyes could kill. Sasuke didn't say any more. My, how things have changed. Kakashi said to Jiraiya, but Jiraiya also looked ready to kill. Jiraiya? Guy asked. That Uchiha wasn't worth it. What we had to lose. Jiraiya looked over to Naruto, wasn't worth what we gained. It was to Naruto, Kakashi said. Jiraiya just snorted and walked over to Naruto. Is he ready to go Sakura? She had a worried look on her face and she was using a lot of chakra. Not yet. Naruto had stopped breathing again and she couldn't find his chakra flow. Come on, don't do this, not this close to home. I'm not losing you here. Neji had been watching with his Byakugan to what was happening in Naruto. He had seen 3 different types of chakras seemingly fighting and colliding with each other, but now there was nothing. Neji? Ten had noticed his worried look. Neji never worries, this must be bad. Neji just shook his head. Then he looked at Sasuke. Anger grew within him. Naruto always reached his hand out to help anyone. He saved me from the darkness. That's what he was trying to do for Sasuke, but Sasuke. He let his thoughts drop when he heard Sakura exclaim, "Got ya." He looked at Naruto and saw that all 3 chakras were back and colliding again. What is happening to you, Naruto? Alright, we can go now. Sakura was exhausted. It's getting harder and harder each time. If he has a fit again before we reach the village, I don't know if I can help him. Jiraiya started to pick up Naruto when Kakashi stopped him. Do you want me to carry him? Jiraiya shook his head. I want to do this Kakashi. Kakashi nodded. Naruto has touched more people than he could ever realize. It is going to be a great loss to lose him so young. Guy had pulled 10-10 aside while everyone else was preparing to leave. 10-10, go ahead of us. Go straight to the Hokage. Tell her that Naruto used the self-imprisonment jutsu and everything else that is going on. She is going to need to be prepared for this. 10-10 nodded and took off. Meanwhile, Sakura was gathering her things. When she went to sling everything on her back, it was taken from her hands. She turned around to see Lee. You are tired, Sakura, let me carry this for you. But, Lee, you already have your own stuff to carry. It is not a problem. We are comrades of the same village. We will always pull together to help each other. Sakura looked over to Sasuke, who took off after Jiraiya. Not always, Lee, not always. They all head towards the village. Shikamaru was standing at the Konoha gate. Kurenai and her team of Kiba, his canine companion, Akamaru, Hinata, and Shino were walking up. What are you doing here, Shikamaru? Kiba asked. I'm waiting for the emissaries of the Sand Village. They're coming for the Chunin exams again. Man, what a drag. I thought after the first couple of times the Hokage would have let me off the hook. He looked past Kiba. Well, it seems everyone is coming back at the same time. Kurenai's team turned around to see what Shikamaru was talking about. There was Kakashi and Guy with everyone in tow. Hi everyone, welcome back. How was? Kiba stopped when he saw Jiraiya carrying Naruto. Then he saw Sasuke. He did it. Naruto finally goes Sasuke back. He went up to Jiraiya and Naruto. He figured Naruto was hurt since he was being carried. Hey Naruto, you finally did, but there was no answer. Hey Naruto. He can't answer you, Kiba. Jiraiya said. Is he hurt that badly? Hinata asked in a quiet, worried voice. Before anyone could respond, 10-10 came running up. Jiraiya sensei, the Hokage is waiting for you. Please get Naruto to her ASAP. Jiraiya took off before anyone could say anything. But everyone knew that if the Hokage was involved it was serious. Kiba turned to Sakura to ask her what was going on. But Sasuke stepped in front of him. Go get Iruka and bring him to Naruto. Akamaru growled and Kiba felt the same way. I know you just got back, but you're not the big hotshot anymore. Kiba growled back. Just do it. Sasuke took off in the same direction as Jiraiya. What's his problem? Kiba growled under his breath. Why should I do that for him? Do it for Naruto. Sakura said behind him. Kiba turned around. Sakura looked furious, but her voice was gentle. Naruto asked something of Sasuke. It involves Iruka-sensei. Please, bring him to Naruto. Sakura, is it really that bad? She just nodded and then took off after everyone else. Jiraiya had just laid Naruto down in a bed when Tsunade, the fifth Hokage, come bursting through the door with Shizune following. In the room was Guy, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Sakura, and Kaien. Tsunade hissed, who the hell taught him that jutsu? She looked around the room and saw the innkeeper. Kaien, why would you teach him such a jutsu? Hokage, you know him? Kakashi asked. Sakura had just walked into the room. The innkeeper spoke, so you become Hokage. That's not the Tsunade I know. I have a question for you. Why did you keep him from us? He has family that could have taken care of him. Kaien stared at her with stern eyes. He looks so much like Naruto. We had our reasons. He should have been raised to be a clan leader. Can two make a clan? Do you think I'm the only one left? Kaien stood defiant. The Uzumaki clan is slowly growing. But we are in hiding. Everyone was in shock. Sakura looked over to Naruto. He has family. Why have they never come for him? I stay in the public by being innkeeper, old man Azuki. I keep an eye out for threats to the clan. That's why I was so surprised when Naruto used Uzumaki so freely. Times have changed, old man, Jiraiya growled. Not enough if you felt you needed to hide him from us. We weren't hiding him, Tsunade said angrily. He was being raised by this village. He has always been Naruto Uzumaki. And yet he knows nothing about us. I find it hard to believe that his parents wouldn't have told him anything about his clan. Tsunade and Jiraiya became very quiet and exchanged uneasy glances. Well, his parents are dead, Tsunade said quietly and reserved. Kaien didn't seem surprised. Of course they are. Were they starting to come to power? Or were you afraid of them establishing? It was nothing like that. Tsunade was clearly uncomfortable. You could tell by the look on her face that she was trying to decide what to say. She took a deep breath. Uzumaki was given to him to protect him. It was his mother's name. Everyone was in shock. His mother's name? Why would? Kaien was confused. We have our reasons. Again Tsunade and Jiraiya exchanged uneasy looks. I think I have the right to know. Kaien, you don't even know Naruto. Why do you have the right to know anything about him? Just because you may be from the same clan doesn't mean you deserve to know anything. Tsunade said. What's the big secret? Sakura looked at Naruto again. What is in your past? So does he even belong to this village? Maybe you stole him. Kaien was cut off. That's enough. Tsunade was furious. She had stomped her foot and put a hole in the floor. All you need to know is that his parents were highly valued members of this village. And when they died, Naruto was raised as a member of this village. He was given his mother's name for our reasons. We didn't know that any of the Uzumaki clan existed. Kaien started to say more, but stopped. He could tell by the look on Tsunade's face that he wouldn't get any more. The door flew open again. This time it was Sasuke and Iruka. Everyone else was standing outside the door. This made Sakura smile. Everyone is worried about you, Naruto. Tsunade turned around and saw everyone crowding the door. Okay everyone, come in. So in came Neji, Lee, Tenten, Kiba, Akamaru, Shino, Hinata, Kurenai, Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji. Shikamaru, aren't you supposed to be waiting for the representatives of the village hidden in the sand? Tsunade asked. Yeah, but I asked Choji to wait for them. But, Tsunade pointed to Choji. Choji replied, but when Shikamaru told me something was wrong with Naruto I had to come. So I asked Ino to watch for them. But, Tsunade now pointed to Ino. Well, I couldn't be left out, so I grabbed Ebisu. He wasn't training Konohamaru right now, so he is waiting for the representatives of the sand. In spite of herself, Tsunade smiled. So everyone is worried about Naruto. He's come so far. I don't have time for this. Sasuke's deadpan voice snapped Tsunade out of her thoughts. She faced him. Sasuke took out the leaf forehead protector and gave it to Iruka. Then he took out the necklace and gave it to Tsunade. Naruto says thanks for believing in him. Then Sasuke walked over to Jiraiya. Release me. His voice never fluctuated. You're just leaving? Jiraiya asked incredulously. I did what he asked. Now I'm leaving. Jiraiya started shaking with fury. You mean his sacrifice means nothing to you? He hoped that once you were in the village. I don't care what he hoped, wanted, wished or dreamed. I keep telling you that I broke my ties with him. If any of you can't accept that, it is not my problem. Everyone had gathered around the door, so as to prevent him from leaving. Well, maybe I won't release that sutra and you can stand as a welcome statue at the gate entrance. Let him go. Everyone was surprised to hear Sakura's voice. She was standing beside Naruto, holding his hand. She had a dead serious look on her face and her eyes welled with tears, but they didn't fall. If you can really leave after everything Naruto has gone through for you. The years of training, searching, and sacrifice. If all of that means nothing to you, then you don't belong here. No one had ever suspected that Sakura would say anything like that. She had always been so obsessed with Sasuke. Shikamaru was remembering back when he, Naruto, Kiba, Akamaru, Neji and Choji set out to get Sasuke back. She had begged Naruto to bring Sasuke back, it was her only wish. How things change, but he was glad about how Sakura felt. Naruto had proven himself time and time again. Sasuke on the other hand. Sasuke stood in front of Jiraiya, waiting. Jiraiya reached out and removed the sutra. Sasuke turned and walked out. Everyone just stared after Sasuke, unable to believe that he left. So how much time do we have? Tsunade asked. Tomorrow is the third day, Jiraiya responded. Kaien started to say something when Konohamaru burst into the room. He stormed over to Naruto. What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be the next Hokage. He punched Naruto in the shoulder. Konohamaru is the grandson of the third Hokage and a protege of Naruto's. Konohamaru. Tsunade started to scold him, but his eyes were full of tears. She put a hand on his shoulder. Konohamaru, she said very gently. He pulled away and turned to look at her. Ebisu-sensei told me that. You're supposed to be the best healer in the world. You can do something, right? Right. Tsunade was shaking her head. Konohamaru, but he shook his head and ran out. She looked at Kaien. Do you see what he means to this village? Kaien just looked defiant. I stand by my decisions. Naruto moaned in pain and everyone stood transfixed at what took place in front of them. Naruto's body arched in pain, practically lifting off the bed. This time the blood sprayed from his mouth, splattering Sakura and Iruka. His hands were grabbing onto the bed so hard that his mattress was starting to tear. Sakura started her healing again. This is so soon after the last time. Why is this happening? She hadn't had time to recoup her chakra. Ino walked over and started to help. She wasn't quite as advanced as Sakura, but she was very skilled. Then Shizune came over and finally Tsunade. It took a couple of minuets, but Naruto started to relax, except his breathing was still erratic. The four women stayed with him until he was breathing easier. Hinata left the room. Kiba, Akamaru, Shino, and Kurenai followed her. Everyone else stood in silence, not knowing how to react. Naruto had always been so strong. It was hard for everyone to see him in such pain. "Shikamaru, please show Kaien to our guest rooms," Tsunade asked in a very subdued voice. Shikamaru just nodded. He and Kaien left the room together. Still no one else spoke or moved. Tsunade turned to the crowd. "Alright everyone, let's go home for today." Lee looked over to Sakura and Iruka. They were still standing by Naruto. With the blood on them, they looked like they've been in a fierce battle. He started to walk towards them, but Tsunade stopped him. "Hokage? It's time to go for today, Lee." He looked past her. "Everything is going to be okay, right? I mean, you performed the nearly impossible on me." Lee sounded hopeful. Tsunade shook her head. "But," Lee tried, "tomorrow is going to be a long day for everyone. Let's get some rest so that we can be strong for Naruto." Lee looked past her again. He was worried about Sakura and Naruto. He started to protest, but then he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Guy, Lee's sensei, the man Lee most looked up to. "Come on Lee, let's go home for tonight. We will be here tomorrow for them." Lee again started to protest, but the look on Guy's face quieted him. Lee just nodded. He left with his team. Everyone continued to file out until the only ones left were Iruka, Sakura, and Tsunade. Tsunade went over to them. "Iruka, go home for tonight." He shook his head. "I want to stay with him." Tsunade put a hand on his shoulder. "You need to clean up Iruka." "It's okay, I'll stay with him." Iruka looked down at himself. "I didn't realize how much blood I was covered in." He nodded to Tsunade, looked at Naruto again, then left. Tsunade turned to face Naruto. For now he was fine. "How long can you last?" "Sakura, I want to stay. I know the most of how to help when the spasms come." "Sakura, you're tired and you need to clean up." "Don't worry, I'll stay with him." "But, no, I'm going to need everyone at their best tomorrow. Go, get some sleep, recharge your chakra, and clean up." "I can't leave him. What if something happens when I'm not here? What if?" She felt like she wanted to cry, but she had no more tears. "Sakura, if anything happens, I will be here. I won't leave him alone." Sakura looked to Naruto. His face still looked troubled and in pain. "Sakura, you are going to need to be strong for tomorrow." "Lady Hokage, don't say." But Sakura could tell that Tsunade had prepared for the worst. "I should do the same." She looked to Naruto. "No. I can't give up." Naruto never does. Sakura remembered the Chunin exam. It was the first time Naruto really showed his strength. Sasuke had wanted to hand over their heaven scroll to the grass ninja, who was Orochimaru in disguise. Naruto had stopped Sasuke. Naruto kept fighting until Orochimaru hit him with some strange jutsu. Then Orochimaru came after Sasuke. I was so worried about Sasuke. He was all I could think about. Bitterness started welling up in her. Why didn't Sasuke stay? Why couldn't he care about Naruto? Not that it would have made this situation better, but it would have been easier knowing that Naruto didn't, she just couldn't bring herself to finish her thoughts. She leaned over and kissed him on his cheek. She whispered softly to him, "The first kiss you get from me and you sleep through it." She was hoping he would turn red and open his eyes. But it didn't happen. She very reluctantly left his side. When Hinata had left the room earlier, she had stood against the wall. Why is this happening? Naruto? She slid down the wall and felt something big and furry next to her. When she looked up, she got a big sloppy tongue in her face. Akamaru. He looked at her and whined. "I'm okay. Are you sure, Hinata?" Kiba came over and sat beside her. She nodded, but there were tears falling. "You can talk to us, Hinata, we are comrades." Shino was standing in front of her. "I need to be stronger, I shouldn't be crying, but. The tears had chalked her up. Kurenai came over. You do need to be strong as a shinobi, however, strength comes in various forms. She looked over her team. She was proud of all of them. They had come a long way together and individually. I'll see you tomorrow. They will take care of each other. Kurenai left. Kiba knew why Hinata was so upset. Hinata, you haven't failed Naruto. There wasn't anything we could do to keep Sasuke here. We should have tried harder. Hinata said softly. Naruto never gives up, but none of us did anything to stop Sasuke. We could have reduced the village to rubble and not have gotten Sasuke to stay. Kiba said gently. Sakura was right. If Sasuke couldn't recognize Naruto's sacrifice, then he isn't a part of this village. Shino said. At the mention of Sakura, Kiba got angry. If it wasn't for that damn promise to Sakura, Naruto wouldn't be in this situation. Shikamaru and Kaien came out. Hey Shikamaru, what's going on? Kiba called. The Hokage is sending everyone home for the day. She's going to stay with Naruto overnight. Kiba and Shino nodded. Shino looked over to Hinata. Did you want to see Naruto? I'm sure the Hokage won't mind. Hinata shook her head, but didn't move. Others started to come out of the room. When Guy's team came out, Neji saw Hinata, and went over to her. I hope he's not going to be mean to her, Ten thought. Even though Neji and Hinata are cousins, they have never been close. For a while, Neji couldn't even stand Hinata. It had to do with Hyuga clan issues. But over the years, they have gotten better with each other. Neji looked down at Hinata and called her name. She looked up, not knowing what to expect. But Neji had his hand outstretched. She looked at it, not sure what to do. Naruto never hid his feelings. I don't think you would want us to start. Hinata nodded, grabbed Neji's hand and stood up. It's true we must be strong, but I have found that Naruto drew his strength from his emotions. I think that is where we will find our strength to help him through this. Hinata nodded and smiled. Everyone else nodded as well and left as a group, except Kiba and Akamaru. Kiba was still outside the door. Iruka was the next to come out. He didn't look around, he just looked straight ahead. He was still holding Naruto's forehead protector in his right hand, which was at his side. He was showing no emotion, but Kiba could tell that he was very upset. This made Kiba even more angry. Finally, Sakura came out. Kiba stood right in front of her. His eyes were blazing. This is your fault. Sakura looked him in the eyes, but she wasn't angry or defensive. If you wouldn't have forced Naruto to make you that damn promise, he wouldn't be like that. Kiba's voice got louder and angrier with each word. Sakura just stood there. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? Even Akamaru was scared. He was standing by with his head down and whimpering. Nothing. This took Kiba by surprise. You're right, Kiba. I've thought of that promise for days now. If I could go back, I never would have asked it of Naruto. Everyone else might overlook it. Hinata may even forgive you, but I never will. Not just for Naruto, but for Hinata. Come on, Akamaru. Kiba turned abruptly and left. I don't blame him, he's right. All I could think of was Sasuke. I wanted him back. I felt as though my world was going to end if Sasuke left. Naruto supported me the whole time. He seemed to be the only one who understood how I felt. It was because of wanting to help Naruto get Sasuke back that I became a medical shinobi. I wanted to be able to protect both of them. But now, Sakura stopped. She hadn't even realized she was walking and had left the hospital. She was standing in front of Naruto's place. I couldn't stand Naruto for the longest time. There was so much I took for granted, so much time wasted. And now, tears started falling again, but these were tears of anger, not sadness. I'll never forgive myself and I'll never forgive Sasuke. Sakura took a last look at Naruto's place and went home. In the shadows, a figure moved. Back at Naruto's bedside, Tsunade watched over him. When she was sure that they were alone, she took out the necklace Sasuke handed her earlier. You damn fool. Didn't Jiraiya tell you that Sasuke wasn't worth it? Didn't he tell you to forget about Sasuke? Didn't he? She had tears welling up in her eyes. Damn it, I'm the Hokage, I shouldn't cry. But when she looked down at Naruto again, they spilled out. She lifted his head and put the necklace on him. This is yours. You won it fairly. I said this would be the last time I would give in to hope. She was still looking at him, but you wouldn't want that. There are others who will carry on your dream. I won't give up on hope, but the necklace is yours. She smiled at him. You proved me wrong and that doesn't happen often. I want you to keep the necklace to show you my promise that I'll never give up. She stayed by his side all night. In the morning, Jiraiya was the first one there. How is he? Still alive, if that's what you mean. Tsunade was sitting on the bed with Naruto, her back to the door. Was it a rough night? Jiraiya walked over and stood behind Tsunade. He had several spasms. I wanted to help him, but I didn't. I let him go through that pain without doing anything. I thought maybe Sakura was prolonging the inevitable. There was one spasm where he stopped breathing and his chakra was gone. I thought it was over, but he started breathing on his own and his chakras slowly came back. It seems that Sakura hasn't made any difference, although I won't tell her that. Tsunade had been holding Naruto's hand. She let go, stood up and faced Jiraiya. She was covered with blood. Yes, it's been a rough night. Stay with him while I go and clean up. Tsunade left without even looking at Jiraiya. Jiraiya watched her leave and then looked fondly at Naruto. I guess we all failed you. I'm sorry. None of what happened to the village all those years ago was your fault, but everyone treated you like it was. Maybe if I guess it's too late for what ifs. Jiraiya stood over Naruto, full of regret for all of the things he would never get to tell or show him. Your parents would have been proud. The thought of Naruto's parents made him feel even worse. I guess you're going to meet them soon. Please forgive us. Jiraiya waited in silence for Tsunade to return. Several hours later everyone had regathered in Naruto's hospital room. Sakura, Iruka, Kaien and Shizune were bedside. Kakashi, Jiraiya, Guy, Kurenai and Tsunade were off to the side, while everyone else stood by the foot of the bed. This included Neji, Tenten, Lee, Shino, Kiba, Akamaru, Hinata, Ino and Choji. Sakura stood by Naruto and looked at him. Come on Naruto, you better wake up from this. I'm not giving up yet. You never give up, that's one thing I learned from you. You will prove them all wrong, I know it. But Sakura was more trying to convince herself than anything else. She could tell from the look on everyone's face, they had prepared for the worst. You'll show them wrong, I know it. I know it. I can't stand the thought of waiting around for him to die. Kiba thought as he looked around the room. But I can't stand the thought of not being here. He could tell from the look on everyone's face that they felt the same. Shikamaru was the last to enter, but he went over to Tsunade instead of joining everyone else. She turned to look at him. Shikamaru, I thought I told you that you needed to take care of the representatives of the sand. Yeah, well about that. He leaned in to talk quietly to Tsunade. Tsunade's eyes widened with surprise. Very well, was all she said. Shikamaru nodded and left. I wonder what that was about. Ino asked Choji. He just shrugged. A moment later Shikamaru returned, with 3 other people. One figure moved ahead. What has happened? Sakura looked up in surprise. Gaara. Gaara was the Kage, the head of the sand village. Cages rarely leave their villages. With him were Kankuro and Temari. You're all here? Do you think we would let the Kage travel alone? Temari said. She looked from Sakura to Naruto to Gaara. Gaara? Gaara came closer. Iruka moved so that he could get closer. Please, what has happened? He's changed so much, Sakura thought. He used to be so full of anger and hate. All it took was one encounter with Naruto for Gaara to change. Why couldn't Sasuke? Sakura? I'm sorry Gaara, I mean Kage. Gaara is fine. What happened to him? Sakura inwardly smiled. What a difference Naruto makes with people. She took a deep breath and told Gaara everything. That sounds like him, Gaara said when Sakura had finished. He leaned in and placed a hand on Naruto. Gaara closed his eyes and concentrated. You could see the chakra building between his hand and Naruto. Sakura looked at him worriedly. Is he trying to do the same thing Elder Chiyo did when she brought Gaara back to life? Naruto would never want that. She started to reach for him but stopped when she realized Gaara had opened his eyes. When I was lost, I could hear Naruto's voice calling to me. I thought if I could get my voice to reach him. Gaara stopped and looked at Naruto. I guess I still have a long way to go before I can catch up to him. Sakura smiled. He would be happy that you are here. Although, I think he would want to catch up to you. Gaara looked up at her. Sakura looked surprised. Did he just smile? I came hoping to see Naruto again. I was going to ask for his help. It seems as though he could always be there for everyone. It's just a shame that when he needs help, it's beyond our reach. Gaara removed his hand, then straightened. Kankuro and Temari had been standing behind Gaara. They respected Naruto for his ability to change people. They had seen it firsthand with Gaara and then Elder Chiyo. It's terrible to lose someone with his ability. Temari said. Kankuro nodded, he always went after everything with all he had. It was as if everything was personal. Don't give up on him yet. Sakura said. You know how stubborn he can be. He still wants to become Hokage. He's never gone back on his word and he's not going to start now. Kankuro and Temari looked at the determination on Sakura's face. They both just nodded to her. Gaara nodded and turned to go. Sakura called out to him. Gaara, wait. Please stay. I know Naruto would want you to. Yes, Cage. To Naruto, friends were his family. And I know he counted you as one of his friends. Tsunade added. Gaara paused. Temari stepped forward. What would you like to do? As long as we are not a hindrance, we shall stay. Everyone nodded and smiled. Well, it looks like the village of the leaf and the sand will be allies for a long time, Tsunade thought. She smiled to herself. At that moment Naruto moaned. Here we go. She prepared herself for the long day ahead. By afternoon everyone was exhausted. Naruto had several spasms that had stopped his breathing and his chakra flow. The first time it happened Sakura started to heal him, but Tsunade stopped her. It was a rough moment for everyone, but Naruto came back on his own. Now after the fourth time this happened everyone was getting worn out. By evening everyone was at their breaking point. Tsunade had started sending people home. Listen, this has been a rough day for everyone. Go home, get cleaned up and get some rest. Tomorrow I want everyone in here in shifts. As much as we may want to be here, the village still needs to function. There were no protests. They had all spent the day watching Naruto in extreme pain. Iruka, Sakura, Kaien, Shizune and Tsunade were covered in blood. He's going to bleed to death if this keeps up, Sakura thought as she tried to stop the bleeding after the last spasm. The room slowly cleared out. When it was down to the senior shinobi, Kaien and Sakura, Tsunade made an announcement. I want all of you to meet back here in 1 hour. Shizune, you go clean up first, I'll stay with Naruto. She turned to Kurenai, we are going to need your special genjutsu to see what is going on. Kurenai nodded. He's stronger than you give him credit for. Everyone turned to look at Kaien. I still say he will fight back from this. Kaien, Tsunade said gently. No, I believe. Sakura stopped listening. As much as she wanted to believe that Naruto could fight back, she could tell he was getting weaker. Naruto, I can't keep believing. I want to believe that you will come back from this more than anything, but… Kaien, enough. This snapped Sakura out of her thoughts. In 1 hour we will find out what is happening. Now out of courtesy, I'd let you be here. However, if you keep up this attitude, I will bar you from being in here. Kaien looked angry, but he quieted. Sakura didn't want to leave, but she knew Tsunade wouldn't give her a choice. Reluctantly she released Naruto's hand and started walking out. Sakura, Tsunade called to her. If you want to stay home, it's okay. Sakura shook her head. Thank you Lady Hokage, but Naruto and I have been together for a long time. I want to know what is happening with him. I want to know what I… She stopped and became very quiet. She put her head down. Sakura, this isn't your fault. Tsunade knew about the promise Naruto made to her. He would have gone after Sasuke anyway. Sakura nodded, I still want to be here. Of course, Tsunade responded. Sakura left and Kaien followed her. Miss? You can call me Sakura. I heard you address that Gaara fellow as Cage. Is that right? Isn't he a bit young for that? Sakura smiled. Yes. He is Gaara of the Sand and the Hidden Sand Village's Cage. He was inspired by Naruto's own desire to be Hokage. The leaf and the sand have been enemies for a very long time. I find it hard to believe that one boy made a difference. Sakura stopped, turned to look Kaien right in his eyes. Her friendly tone was gone. She was exhausted and angry. If Kaien said one wrong word, she would hit him. Old man or not, that's because you don't know anything about Naruto. I've seen him reach many people. People who had given up on hope, people who couldn't trust anymore, people who felt betrayed by everything. Then they meet Naruto. His own determination and kindness broke through all of that. I can't count the number of people I've seen Naruto turn around. Sakura's voice and temper were rising. Kaien just stared at her, he looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. I had no idea that he had such an influence over people. With the sincere look on Kaien's face, Sakura couldn't stay angry with him. Her tone softened. You should talk to Gaara about it. Kaien shook his head. I think I've done enough damage. I really believed that he would be the one to handle that jutsu. It's easy to believe in him. Come on, let's get ourselves cleaned up. Kaien nodded and they walked off together. There was movement in the shadows. An hour later Sakura, Kaien, Kakashi, Iruka, Jiraiya, Guy, Kurenai, Shizune, and Tsunade were back in the hospital room. Tsunade turned to Kurenai. Please use your genjutsu and let us know what is happening. Kurenai nodded and stepped forward, placed a hand on Naruto and closed her eyes. It seemed like days before she opened her eyes. When she did, she quietly said, "You would have made a great Hokage." Kurenai, please tell us what you saw, Tsunade asked. Kurenai nodded, turned to face everyone, and began. There was a large gate. Naruto had his back to it as if trying to keep it closed. I called out to him. Kurenai-sensei, what are you doing here? Everyone is worried about you. He gave me a big smile. So we're back at the village. That means Sasuke is here. Naruto, why did you do this? What do you mean? That jutsu. The self-imprisonment jutsu. Why did you use it? Did you know what would happen to you? I had been practicing with the innkeeper. Oh wait, do you know about the innkeeper? I nodded, yes, he came back to the village as well. Well, he said that if I used it, I would pass out for a few days. He told me that only the most exceptional shinobi have ever used it. I thought that since I mastered the Rasengan, this would be easy. He looked over his shoulder. I guess it was a little harder than I thought. Naruto? Who's there boy? I knew that voice, Orochimaru. A snake slid across Naruto's middle, wound around his back, came across his throat and started choking him. Naruto. No. Stay back. He might try to transfer to you if you get too close. The snake squeezed harder and Naruto went limp. Naruto. I'm alright, but the snake stayed around him. You won't be for long boy. I will find a way out of here. A sword slashed through his leg. I started towards him again. No. Stay back. It's okay. But Naruto. So how does Sasuke like being back in the village? Why don't you release that jutsu and you can see for yourself? He shook his head. If I leave here, Orochimaru will get out. He may try to go after Sasuke again. I can't take that chance. Plus, he may try to do something to the village. I figure, I have one monster inside of me. What's another one? Naruto, tell Sasuke that he's going to need to keep an eye on Sakura since I can't anymore. A sword slashed his arm. But what about becoming Hokage? He smiled at me again. Well, I think keeping Sasuke, Sakura, and the rest of the village safe comes first. If I keep Orochimaru here, he won't be able to hurt anyone else ever again. That's what you think boy. This time the sword went through his heart. Again, I started toward him, but a red chakra enveloped him. His wounds healed and he straightened up. He looked over his shoulder, thanks big guy. Why do you keep saving him you damn fox? Once he dies we can escape. Orochimaru screamed and I could tell that he and the nine-tailed fox were battling. This seemed to put a lot of stress on Naruto. Naruto, I can't leave you like this. It's okay, tell everyone I'm fine. But you're not, we can help. Kurenai-sensei listen, I've kept my promise to Sakura. I've brought a friend home. And, I'm keeping the village safe. What more could I ask for? Naruto. Another snake coiled around him in the opposite direction. When it got to his neck, it bit down. Naruto's eyes changed to gray, snake-like eyes. Come here Kurenai, I want to go home now. It was Naruto's voice, but I knew it wasn't him. I could see him struggle to gain control of himself. It's time for you to go Kurenai-sensei. Tell everyone I'm fine and not to worry about me. I could feel him pushing me out. Naruto. Wait, but he just smiled at me as he pushed me out and continued to get slashed and choked by Orochimaru. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe what Naruto had been going through. Damn him. Doesn't he ever think about himself? Tsunade said as she walked up to Naruto and gently started stroking his head. Damn it. If he's still that strong, can he still wake up? Kaien quietly asked. Tsunade shook her head. It's the fox demon keeping him alive. What's that thing doing in him? Kaien asked indignantly. It's a long story, Tsunade replied. Kaien huffed, but it was Naruto's power that pushed Kurenai out. Kurenai nodded. I could feel that it was Naruto's chakra. Well, that may be, but he is being tortured by Orochimaru. The fox demon may be keeping Naruto's chakra going, but eventually his body is going to give out. Everyone was silent. Sakura, stay with Naruto until I get back, Tsunade stated as she started walking out. What am I going to do? When you leave, make sure you don't share any of this information with anyone. That goes for all of you. Everyone nodded. Tsunade left and went back to her office. Shizune followed. Slowly, everyone filtered out. No one talked, lost in their own thoughts of Naruto and how things had ended up like this. Kaien walked up to Naruto, leaned in and very quietly spoke, "I'm sorry, kid. I only saw you as an Uzumaki, not as an individual. I hope someday you can forgive me." And then he left. Now, Sakura was alone with Naruto. "You moron, why would you sacrifice yourself like this? You have so much more to offer. So much more to do." She just couldn't cry anymore. "My turn to say I'm sorry. I should have never had you make me that promise. We both should have realized that Sasuke made his own choice to leave. No one forced or tricked him. If I would have realized, oh, Naruto. There is so much I wish I would have done with you. So much I wanted to share, and now, I've lost you." Sakura couldn't talk anymore. She sat by his bedside, looking out the window. For a moment, she thought she was a shadow move. She got up and looked closer, but nothing was there, so she sat back down and waited. Tsunade was in her office looking through various bottles and books. Shizune was watching her. The ingredients and books shocked Shizune. "I hope you're not looking for what I think you are." "What if I am? Do you really think that is the answer?" "What should I do, Shizune? Let Naruto get tortured until his body can't take any more. After putting the village first, do you think he deserves such a death? But we have IVs to help replace what he's losing. We just need to give him time." "Time? How much time, Shizune? A week, a month, a year. All the while Orochimaru is." Shizune quieted and put her head down. "Naruto is going to die. There is nothing that is going to stop that. The least we can do is let him die dignified." Shizune wanted to protest, but she couldn't. She hung her head. Tsunade walked up to her. "I know, Naruto means a lot to me too." Shizune started crying. Tsunade wanted to cry, but as Hokage, she would not let herself. She went back to her searching. A few hours later, Tsunade was back in Naruto's room. Sakura was half asleep in her chair. Tsunade went over to wake her up. "Sakura, it's time to go home." Sakura opened her eyes. "Oh, Lady Hokage." She started to scramble to get up. "It's okay, Sakura. It's time for me to take over. Go home." Sakura nodded, looked over to Naruto and started to leave. Then she got a funny feeling that this was going to be the last time she would see Naruto. So she stopped, turned around, went over to him and kissed him on the top of his head, then left. Tsunade stared after her and waited a few minuets before she moved. She went over to Naruto, but her resolve wavered. "Am I really doing the right thing?" As if in response to her thoughts, Naruto moaned in pain and then a spasm came. It was just a mild one, but it reminded Tsunade of why she was doing what she was. She sat down on Naruto's bed. She lifted him up and cradled him in her arms. She pulled out a vial and held it for a few moments. She looked at Naruto's troubled face and made up her mind. She opened the vial and poured it down his throat. "You deserve the dignity of dying as a shinobi." His body started reacting to the poison she had given him. "There were so many things you never got to know. I wonder if things would have been different for you if I'd stayed around after you were born." She started wondering who took care of him when he was a baby. Were they kind to him? Was he treated like a child or as a demon? "Naruto, have you ever had a lullaby sung to you? My mom had a great one that she sang to me and my brother. Let me see if I can get it right." She closed her eyes, found the melody in her memory and began singing and rocking. Naruto's body stiffened, relaxed and stiffened again. Tsunade kept singing her lullaby and rocking. Finally Naruto's body relaxed deeply. She could feel the tension and the air go out of him. His arms had been stiff in front of him, but now they dropped to his side and off the bed. Tsunade kept singing and rocking. Several minutes passed. This time Naruto did not start breathing again. Tsunade stopped singing, "Naruto?" But she could tell that it was over. Tsunade finally let all of her tears fall. She pulled Naruto closer to her and buried her face in him. Tsunade stayed for a while longer. She laid Naruto back down. "He actually looks peaceful now. I hope you can forgive me. I'm going to need to tell everyone about you. I'll be back in a couple of hours." Tsunade left the room and called 2 guards over to make sure that no one entered Naruto's room. Then she left to prepare herself for her announcement. A lone figure moved in the shadows and then left the village. As this figure left, tears were shed, but the figure never looked back. All was quiet in Naruto's room for a while. However, Naruto's body began to glow and was enveloped with a blinding light. When the light dissipated, Naruto's body was gone. Hinata was taking her time walking home, just like yesterday. Her father was very upset with her for taking so long. But, if I keep my normal routine. Walking around the village made the days feel longer. She was making her way to the ninja academy, turned a corner and stopped. There was someone wearing white standing by the swing. The person had a hand on one of the ropes. It struck Hinata that it was a very lonely scene. Then she realized who it was, Naruto. She ran up to him. Naruto. But he wouldn't turn around. When she reached him, she placed a hand on his arm. He finally turned to face her, but it looked as if he didn't recognize her. Naruto, have you been released from the hospital? He just looked at her. Are you alright? Maybe I should get you back? But Naruto didn't move. He just looked at her. It seemed like he could look right through her. But his face was kind. It was like he was lost. Naruto? He held out a hand to her. Hinata looked at it. He wants to hold my hand? She started to blush and shakily reached out to him. When she grabbed his hand, she felt chakra flowing to her and enveloping her. She wanted to cry out, but she couldn't. The world around her began to disappear. As she passed out, Naruto's face was the last thing she saw. When she came to, Naruto was holding her, looking very concerned. She blushed and started to get up. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you alright? Naruto, your voice sounds strange. Yeah, I'm fine. Hinata stood up, with Naruto's help. He still looked concerned. No, really, I'm fine. Are you sure? She was looking right at him, but his mouth never moved. She looked around to see if someone else had spoken. Is something wrong? Again, his mouth never moved. Naruto, why does your voice sound so strange? It sounded like 3 voices speaking at once. And how can I hear you? Your mouth hasn't moved. He looked at her, puzzled. So you know me? Where is this place? Who are you? It's me, Hinata Hyuga. This is Kohoha, the village hidden in the leaves. And you are Naruto Uzumaki. She was blushing so much that her whole face was red. You sound so sure of this. I will take your word for it. Can you tell me more? Hinata looked at him. So he's lost his memory. I wonder if that is why he's out here. She smiled at him. I guess he's stronger than any of us imagined. Stronger than what? You can read my mind? Naruto shrugged. I do not know. I heard you say, I guess he is stronger than any of us imagined. Hinata nodded. Can you hear this? But Naruto just looked at her. Let me try something else. She took a moment, focused her chakra and her feelings. It's good to have you back. Back from where? Hinata smiled. I get it now. You can feel my emotions through my chakra, and that translates into the words I used. Is that bad? She shook her head. Can you do that with everyone? I do not know. Who is here? Hinata was starting to feel more confident. This time she reached out her hand. Let me show you around. Maybe you will remember something. He smiled and grabbed her hand. They took off through the town. At Ichiraku ramen shop, some of Naruto's friends had gathered. There was Choji, Kiba, Shino, Neji, and Lee. This ramen shop had been Naruto's favorite place to eat for years. After Tsunade had sent everyone home yesterday, they all stopped here. Today, they were looking for Hinata. Neji sounded frustrated. Uncle should just let her be. You just want to get some sleep. Kiba said with a playful tone to his voice. Neji grunted. We are waiting for the girls to check a few places that we cannot, Lee chimed in. We're probably missing her by just moments. She's been walking around the village. I think she's trying to avoid thinking about him. Everyone nodded. They all knew how Hinata felt about Naruto. Well, why don't you stay and have breakfast? Choji asked as he was severed his order. Neji started to respond when Hinata walked in and bumped into him. Oh, she said in a surprised voice. I didn't think there would be so many people here this early. What good luck. Hinata, where have you been? Your father is really worried. Neji started, then he noticed that she was holding someone's hand. Hinata, who? Oh, everyone, look who I have here. She tugged on the hand and Naruto came through the doorway. Naruto. Everyone said at once. They all gather around him, pushing Hinata off to the side. I knew you could beat that stupid jutsu. Kiba said. Your strength never ceases to amaze me. Lee added. Naruto looked to each person, but his expression never changed, nor did he say anything. Hinata made her way back through everyone. She placed a hand on Naruto's arm. It's okay. Come over here. She led Naruto to a seat. He was looking around like it was his first time there. Hinata ordered something for him, but before she could sit down, Neji grabbed her arm and pulled her to the back. What's going on? Everyone crowded around Hinata. Naruto survived the jutsu. He's lost his memory, though. What? Everyone said, shocked. I've been taking him around the village hoping his memory would come back. But so far, she just shook her head. I'm surprised that the Hokage let him out of the hospital in that condition. Shino said. Hinata nodded. I thought it was strange, too. Especially how I found him. He was. She stopped and looked over at Naruto, as if he called her name. Wait, I'm coming. Excuse me everyone. She made her way over to Naruto. Everyone watched as Hinata went over and showed Naruto how to use the chopsticks and how to eat the ramen. Even the shopkeeper, Tucci, was watching Naruto. He had seen Naruto grow up coming to his ramen shop. Tucci was so happy to see Naruto that he made Naruto his favorite ramen. Something's not right. Doesn't Hinata seem off? Kiba asked. Indeed, she is more aggressive and sure of herself than I've ever seen. Shino added. Neji was going to step forward when Shikamaru came into the ramen shop. Hey, what's going on? Why is everyone here? Choji started to answer when someone spoke from behind Shikamaru. Is there a problem? Asked Gaara. No case Cage, no problem. I think. Gaara walked into the ramen shop followed by Tamari and Kankuro. Shikamaru was showing us around your village. I'm surprised how much we are. Gaara stopped. Shikamaru followed Gaara's gaze. Naruto. Tamari and Kankuro were also astonished. Gaara started walking towards Naruto. Kankuro was going to say something when he got pushed from behind as Sakura, Ten, and Ino tried to push into the ramen shop. Hey, what's everyone doing here? Ino asked. Sakura started to say something but she noticed that everyone was looking at the same point. She followed everyone's gaze and her heart missed a beat. Naruto? She too started to push through everyone to get to him. Gaara had sat down beside Naruto on the opposite side of Hinata and just stared at Naruto. Naruto returned his gaze, but this time there seemed to be the light of recognition in his eyes. What do you mean you're the same? Hinata asked. No one said anything, Hinata. Kiba said. Now everyone was starting to get worried. Something just wasn't right. Only Sakura, Gaara, and Hinata seemed not to notice anything was wrong. Naruto smiled and held his hand out to Gaara. Gaara grasped it. Immediately chakra flowed from Naruto's hand, enveloping Gaara. No, stop, Kankuro shouted, but it was too late. Gaara was completely surrounded by Naruto's chakra. It lasted only for a few seconds, but when it was gone, Gaara closed his eyes and lost consciousness. Back in the hospital, Tsunade was walking up the hall and trying to figure out what she was going to say to everyone, when Shizune come running up to her. He's gone. Naruto, he's gone. Shizune, you knew that I was. But Shizune was shaking her head. No. His body is gone. Tsunade was shocked. What do you mean? I mean there is nothing in Naruto's room. They both ran to Naruto's room. Tsunade flung the door open so hard that it came off of its hinges. The room was empty. What went on in here? Tsunade bellowed to the guards. Nothing. No one went in or out until Shizune. Tsunade looked around. There was nothing out of place. The windows were closed. What the hell is going on? Shizune, get that old man over here. Also, summon Iruka, Jiraiya, and Kakashi. Tsunade stormed off. Everyone had gathered in Tsunade's office. But the announcement she made surprised everyone. What do you mean he's missing? Iruka asked, his voice heavy with concern. You heard me. Last night Naruto passed away. I was planning on making the announcement this morning. Tsunade stopped. Her emotions were starting to get the better of her. Shizune is the one who found his room empty. She looked at Kaien. What is going on? Is this still part of the jutsu? Kaien shook his head. I don't know. Could one of his friends have taken him? But why? Tsunade just couldn't put the pieces together. Alright, everyone, fan out. Find everyone who was in that room yesterday. Everyone nodded and left except for Tsunade and Kaien. She got up and started looking through her books. If I find out that you have something to do with this. But, Kaien looked very concerned. No, I do not. I know that you have no reason to believe me, but I have nothing to do with this. We'll see. They waited in silence. Gaara opened his eyes to find chaos going on. Tamari and Sakura were by him. Sakura was trying to perform her healing jutsu, but neither were looking at Gaara. Hinata was being held back by Neji. No, really, he's going to be okay. The same thing happened to me. It's okay. But her words were falling on deaf ears. Kankuro, Lee, Kiba, and Shikamaru all had a hold of Naruto. But he wasn't struggling, in fact, he was the only one actually looking at Gaara. Are you alright? Yes, I'm fine. Your voice sounds different. Gaara started to stand. Now, everyone turned to face Gaara. Temari was the first to speak. Gaara, are you alright? Whose voice sounds different? Yes, I'm fine. He looked around and started towards Naruto, but Temari stopped him. Doesn't his voice sound different to you? Whose voice? Naruto's. Everyone looked at each other. Shino spoke first. He has not said anything. Now, Gaara was confused. Are you sure you are alright? Gaara looked at Naruto. Yes, really, I'm fine. No one knew what was going on. No one, except Hinata. Cage, you can hear him? Gaara looked at her and nodded. Hinata smiled. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but if you focus your thoughts and chakra, he can hear you. Gaara tried. Why did you do this to me? I am sorry. It felt as though I knew you and so far, nothing has felt familiar. I see. Nothing, Naruto? Hinata asked. He shook his head. Everyone else was looking at each other in confusion. So you mean that he doesn't need to speak? He can read and send thoughts? Shikamaru asked. Hinata and Gaara nodded. Can he read everyone's mind? Kiba asked suspiciously. Hinata shook her head. I thought it was just me, but now Gaara too. Everyone looked at Naruto. Sakura felt heartbroken. It isn't Naruto. It may look like him, but it's not. I think we should get him to the Hokage. Shikamaru said. Everyone nodded. He looked at Naruto. Are you going to fight us? No, but Who is Hokage? Is it a relative of Cage? Hinata laughed. No. It's the leader of this village. Gaara is the leader of the village hidden in the sand, so he is Cage. Naruto nodded, but no one moved. He said that he will go willingly. Gaara informed everyone as he pushed past Temari and went over to Naruto. No one knew what to do. Neji, you can let me go. It's okay, Hinata said. I'm not sure you are who you say you are. She just smiled. Neji, it's okay. He reluctantly released her. She went right over to Naruto. It's okay everyone, really. She gently put a hand on Kiba and Shikamaru. Really, we'll go willingly. Kiba and Shikamaru looked at each other, then at Kankuro and Lee. They all nodded and slowly let go. Naruto didn't move. Hinata grabbed his hand. Come on. I'll show you the way. He smiled at her and then nodded. Gaara followed. Shikamaru looked worried. I think we should all go. Just to make sure nothing happens. Everyone nodded and started to leave the ramen shop. Sakura was standing there, her face was flushed red. When Hinata grabbed Naruto's hand, he looked at her very fondly. When did he start looking at Hinata like that? He never seemed to notice her feelings before. Sakura was still mulling it over when Ino came beside her. What's the matter, Sakura, jealous? No, of course not. I just. But she couldn't put her feelings into words. Come on, let's go. Ino giggled as she smacked Sakura on the shoulder on the way out. The group hadn't gotten very far when Naruto looked up and saw the monument to the former Hokages. In the mountainside, overlooking the village, 5 figureheads were chiseled. These represented the 4 previous and the current Hokage. When Naruto saw this, he stopped moving and just stared at the figureheads. What's wrong? Gaara and Hinata said in unison. Everyone stopped and gathered around. Naruto started to shake with anger. No one noticed that his eyes had changed to dull gray snake eyes. His fury grew. That old man owes me. Hinata grabbed her head and went down to her knees. Naruto, what are you talking about? Why are you so angry with the 3rd Hokage? Naruto couldn't hear her through his rage. He walked forward, only focusing on the mountain in front of him. His chakra was building visibly. He struck out with his hands and his chakra flew off of him in the form of a great white snake. Gaara put a hand to his head and winced in pain. Gaara? Temari asked worriedly. Kankuro came over to them. All the other guys went to grab Naruto, but they couldn't even get close to him because his chakra was surrounding him like a force field. Naruto, stop it, Sakura yelled as she too tried to reach him. All of a sudden a huge frog appeared and knocked the snake out of the way. The two started fighting. Naruto's fury grew as he prepared for another strike. Hinata passed out and Gaara now gripped his head with both hands. Sakura knew where that frog had come from. She looked around trying to find Jiraiya. He was standing on top of one of the nearby buildings. He jumped down in front of Naruto. Naruto looked at him with those gray eyes, full of fury. Jiraiya knew those eyes, they were Orochimaru's. So Orochimaru won the battle, and instead of getting Sasuke's body, he got Naruto's. This made Jiraiya very angry. If I could, I'd rip Orochimaru out of him and shove him into Sasuke. Naruto doesn't deserve this fate. Naruto stared back. Why are you in my way? He owes me. Of course, only Gaara could hear him since Hinata had passed out. Jiraiya went to reach out to Naruto, but he couldn't get through Naruto's chakra either. Gaara started walking towards Naruto. Temari tried to stop him. You shouldn't go near him. But Gaara shrugged her off and kept going. Jiraiya was trying hard to contain his anger. So, you think you've won, Orochimaru? Do you think that we won't take action because you're in that body? Sakura was horrified. You mean that Orochimaru has taken over Naruto's body? After everything he did to protect Sasuke from that, this is the outcome. It's not right. Naruto's only ever looked out for everyone else. Jiraiya was getting prepared to use the Rasengan, when Gaara came from behind Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto spun around to face him. Jiraiya was surprised. How did he get through that wall of chakra? Naruto, this isn't your anger. Gaara said very calmly. This isn't what you really feel. How would you know? But when he saw how much pain Gaara was in, he stopped. Gaara, are you alright? What is wrong? Naruto's anger was completely gone and the snake disappeared. He placed a hand in Gaara. Again the chakra was visible. When it was gone, the two men were looking at each other. I am sorry. I did not realize. It's alright. I think Hinata needs your help. Gaara stepped aside, showing Neji cradling Hinata. Naruto went right over to her and knelt down. Neji jerked her away. Naruto looked at him very sincerely. He reached out and placed a hand on her arm. His chakra enveloped them both. Hinata opened her eyes and with her other hand placed it on Naruto's cheek. It's okay. I'm fine. They looked into each other's eyes very fondly. Sakura's face went red again. What is going on? Jiraiya was very confused and angry. We're taking him to the Hokage. I'll explain along the way, Shikamaru said. Jiraiya nodded and the group headed out. No one noticed the eyes watching from the shadows. Jiraiya had signaled to the others that were out searching to come to the Hokage's office. They gathered outside her office. Everyone stared at Naruto and wanted to say something. But Jiraiya silenced them with a look. Let's get to the Hokage first. I don't think anyone is going to believe this. I'm not even sure I do. Everyone went inside. Tsunade couldn't believe her eyes. Kaien, what's going on? Kaien walked up to Naruto. Do you remember me? Naruto shook his head. How do you feel? But Naruto just stared at him. Kaien tried again. How do you feel? He feels fine, just confused. Hinata said. I'm asking him. He answered you. You just couldn't hear him. So, are you the only one who can hear him, Hinata? Tsunade asked. No, Gaara can hear him, too. Gaara, who had been standing behind Naruto, stepped forward. Alright, let's get to the bottom of this, Tsunade growled. And so started the interrogation. Hours later, everyone was frustrated and exhausted. The answers were coming slow since they had to wait for Hinata or Gaara had to translate. There has to be an easier way, Tsunade huffed. Naruto looked at Hinata, she nodded. Then he looked at Gaara, he nodded. They all closed their eyes for a few moments. What's going on? Tsunade was ready to break something. All three opened their eyes at the same time. Hinata was the first to speak. This should speed things along. As I said earlier, the first thing I remember is standing by a tree. I felt mixed emotions about standing there, but I couldn't make sense out of what I was feeling. Then Hinata came up to me. I was so relieved to find someone. No one knew how to react. Hinata, why are you? Tsunade started. Next was Gaara. They have agreed to act as my voice. I do not seem to have the ability to speak, and this method will make answering your question easier. Will they be like this forever? Temari asked, very concerned. Gaara can't act as the case cage if he is like this. Naruto shook his head. Hinata responded, we can change our bond at any time. I just thought this would make answering questions easier. Tsunade and the others looked dubious, but she proceeded, who are you? Gaara. Hinata seems to think that I am someone named Naruto Uzumaki. She seemed very sure of this, so I took her word for it. So you don't remember anything? Naruto shook his head. What about Gaara? Hinata. I remembered a feeling when I looked at him. It felt like we were the same in some way and that he was somehow important to me. So how is it that only Hinata and Gaara can hear you? Gaara. When Hinata came up to me, I was so glad that someone was here and seemed to know me. I reached out to her with everything that I am. I think it was a little overwhelming because she passed out. When she came to, she could hear me. It was the same when I reached out to Gaara. What do you mean by, reached out? Hinata. I do not know if I can explain, let me show you. Wait, I don't want anyone else to end up like that. Sakura felt a little disappointed. She was going to volunteer. Wait, stupid, this isn't Naruto. He's nothing like him. It's someone pretending to be him. Gaara. That is alright. I can show you with these two. Naruto turned to Hinata and she faced him. They grasped hands. Once again, Naruto's chakra became visible. It surrounded Hinata and then vanished. That's what happened to Gaara when Naruto shook his hand. Shikamaru confirmed. Hinata looked at him and giggled. That felt different than the last time. Gaara. That is because you are now familiar with me. It is not so overwhelming anymore. Hinata stood up on her tiptoes and kissed Naruto's cheek. She smiled at him. He smiled back and nodded. Me too. Hinata was a little surprised. We can still talk like this? Naruto winked at her. They do not need to know everything. Right, Gaara. Gaara looked over, very slightly and winked. Alright, what's with the personality change in Hinata? Tsunade growled. She hadn't noticed the exchange with Gaara. Naruto just shook his head. Hinata turned back to respond to Tsunade. I do not know. This is all new to me as well. So why did you attack our monument? Naruto actually looked embarrassed. Gaara responded, I am sorry. I do not know why I reacted that way. Gaara said the anger was not mine. All I know is that someone's image in the mountain made me angry. So much so that all I could think of was destroying it. Tsunade didn't know what to do. She wanted him to be Naruto, but nothing about him was like Naruto. She sat back and sighed. The only reason he thinks he's Naruto is because Hinata said so. Tsunade looked back over them. Okay, you three, please go into the next room. I need to talk to everyone. Hinata, Gaara, and Naruto nodded. Hinata lead them out. Do you think it's wise to leave them by themselves? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade nodded. I have guards in there. She sighed heavily. What the hell is going on? Is he Naruto? Is he Orochimaru? Her head was spinning. He is neither and both. Probably all three. Kaien said. What's that supposed to mean? This isn't the time for riddles, old man. Jiraiya hissed. It all makes sense if you know the legend of the Silent Warrior. Kaien responded. There was none of the brashness to his voice anymore. Do you really think that Naruto has become the next Silent Warrior? Tsunade said with surprise. Impossible. Jiraiya exclaimed. But Kaien nodded. I'm sorry, but could you fill the rest of us in on this legend? Iruka asked. The worry still clear in his voice. Go ahead, Kaien. Tsunade nodded in his direction. There was a young warrior who had lost his parents. He was taken in by his uncle, who was the high priest of the Uzumaki clan. As high priest, he trained all the young warriors. At first, he did not want to train his nephew, since he was the only family the high priest had left. But the young warrior wanted to protect his clan. So after much arguing, the high priest agreed to train him. The young warrior soon rose to the top of the warriors. He even convinced his uncle to teach him some of the most secret jutsus, which included the self-imprisonment seal. As the warrior grew up, many thought that he would be the next clan leader, as the current clan leader was aging and had no heir. But one day a rival clan attacked. One of their warriors had developed a new powerful jutsu and decided to wipe out the Uzumakis. The young warrior saw his friends and clansmen being slaughtered. Everything the Uzumakis did was repelled. So the young warrior made a decision. He trapped the warrior of the rival clan, who was wielding the new jutsu. And before anyone could stop him, he performed the self-imprisonment jutsu. It was something none of the rival clan had seen before, and so they withdrew. Only the high priest knew what would happen when that jutsu was used. His nephew was brought to him. The high priest started making the funeral arrangements. There had never been anyone who survived this jutsu. The high priest knew that on the third day, his nephew would be dead. That is why the jutsu had been hidden away. On the third day, the devastated high priest walked into his nephew's room, ready to take his body for the funeral. But there stood the young warrior, who greeted him with a smile. The high priest started asking many questions, but the young warrior would not speak. As much as the high priest tried, his nephew just would not say anything. The high priest didn't really care, he was just happy his nephew was alive. As the warrior recovered, he began training again. But he never spoke a word. During a training session, he was able to use the power that the rival clan had used. But it was different in that it was more powerful. Many were impressed with his abilities, but felt that they couldn't follow a clan leader if he could not speak. Instead, the high priest was made the next clan leader with his nephew by his side. The Uzumaki clan once again rose into prominence. That's a ridiculous story. It's the kind of legend that every clan has. The invincible warrior who make the ultimate sacrifice for the good of the clan. Jiraiya spat. It seems to match what is happening to Naruto. Kaien responded. So what does that mean for Naruto? Tsunade asked. Kaien shrugged. I don't know. What happens when you mix three very different things together? You get something completely different. Everyone turned to look at Neji. He was clenching his fists. He really isn't Naruto anymore. It was hard enough for everyone to accept Naruto's death, but this? Can we be sure that it isn't Orochimaru? I saw his eyes transform. I would know Orochimaru's eyes anywhere. Jiraiya stated. I don't think so, Tsunade stated. From what you told me, Naruto showed real concern for Gaara and Hinata. That is something Orochimaru could never do. So now what? Shizune asked. Do we still treat him like Naruto? Tsunade just couldn't take this all in. I don't know. Kiba, go and get Kurenai. We'll be needing her ability again. Kiba nodded. He and Akamaru took off. Bring them in, Tsunade said to Iruka. He nodded and went to get them. Tsunade looked around the room at all of the agonized faces. This is so hard for everyone. As shinobi, we all prepare to deal with death. It's not easy, but we know that it is part of our life. But this? How do you prepare yourself for something like this? Tsunade was jolted out of her thoughts. As Iruka brought the three of them back in, Hinata was humming a song. Tsunade's head and heart were thumping. It can't be. She stood up and walked over to them, standing in front of Naruto. Lady Tsunade? Shizune called. Hinata, that song. Where have you heard it? Tsunade couldn't contain her shaking. Hinata shrugged. It's stuck in his head. So now, it's stuck in mine. Do you know it, Hokage? Tsunade nodded. It was the lullaby that she had sung to Naruto. Naruto looked her in the eyes. Don't worry, Granny Tsunade, it will all work out. It was Gaara's voice, but Tsunade knew that it was Naruto's thoughts. Everyone gasped at what Gaara had said. Naruto always referred to Tsunade as Granny since she hid her age with a jutsu. It was his way of reminding her that she wouldn't fool him. Tsunade reached out and pulled Naruto into an embrace. He didn't return it, but he didn't pull away. Even without Kurenai, Tsunade had her answer of who she was holding. In spite of herself, she once again shed tears. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.